So my name is Jess Hartman. I'm the sales marketing executive here at Finsen Tech. We are the innovation in disinfection, saving time, saving lives, saving resources. I am joined by two colleagues today on the panel, Brian Donahue and Tristan, if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
Go ahead, Brian, you go first.
Well, thank you very much. I'm here in Tampa, Florida. I just happen to be in a school cafeteria where we have one of our air units placed, and I'm going to be demoing it for old Jess. I'm going to be his Vanna White to his Pat Sajak today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Brian. Good morning, all. I'm Tristan Williams. I'm the Chief Technical Officer for Finsen Tech, speaking to you today from the UK in the southwest of England. And I'm just here to lend a bit of support, or if anybody wants to take a deep dive on the technical details, I'm here to answer any questions you may have and just support Jess. But Jess is doing a fantastic job, and you'll be in his capable hands for the rest of the show. Over to you, Jess.
So I will say, if you guys want to moderate the chat, if there's any questions that pops up, feel free to, these guys are the experts and they would love to answer your questions. But just getting started. So I'd like to, I'll talk a little bit about Finsen Tech today and our solutions, what we do, our technology. But what I really want to drive home is indoor air quality. There's all kinds of ways to measure it, the importance of it. There's standards out there in the industry, what the US government is doing. So we'll go ahead and start with just Finsen Tech itself. So antimicrobial stewardship is something that we uphold by the use of science every single day. So that little diagram on the left essentially represents the chain of infection. The entire scheme around our technology is to break those chains of infection, so stop the spread of pathogens. And we do that by these four products on the right. So the easiest one to understand is we have Thor here. It's our flagship product, whole room disinfection. We have Air, which we'll get into today. You'll get a little bit better briefing on that. Zeus is a UVC smart cabinet. So phone, keys, wallet, put any of those in there and it zaps 8 log reduction in 30 seconds. And then we have Hyperion, which is just a bigger Zeus. So anything that can't fit in the Zeus typically can fit into a Hyperion. Before I get into indoor air quality and all that, I will say I use some websites, some recommendations, some standards. I encourage you to go out and do your own research. There's a ton of great information, whether it be YouTube, Vimeo, there's videos, all kinds of stuff like that. Go out and do your own research. There's great information. Don't take our word for it, but we do study this stuff and have great knowledge on it. So getting into that, I'll start with just the importance of indoor air quality. So think of maybe the last time you were in an ER, maybe ate too much turkey for Thanksgiving, or a doctor's office, waiting room, and you had a person next to you just coughing up a storm. So all that air is being spread around the room, and it's airborne diseases. It's spread of illness. It causes allergies and asthma. Pathogens like bacteria and these viruses, they linger in the air. So what we try and do is filter and disinfect. The idea of that is to reduce the spread of illnesses and essentially protect your patients, your staff, whoever's in that facility. I did take a cool picture here that from the EPA. It says 90% of your lives are spent indoors. So when you put that into perspective, the next time you're outside, maybe take a deep breath of fresh air and enjoy it. But the whole point of air filtration and disinfection is to reduce the spread of illnesses and keep your family, your friends, and yourself safe. Measuring air quality. So it's very difficult. One thing I will say is air is volatile. It's constantly moving, and that's what makes it difficult to measure it. There are all sorts of, I actually have a couple on hand here, all sorts of ways that you can measure. I got even an ozone one as well, to measure air. So there's a couple things you need to understand is that the readings on those screens, so the display has a specific amount of pollutants. What you have to understand is, especially if you're in healthcare industry, like many of you I'm sure on the call are, there's more pathogens than just what's being read on that display screen. So understanding that, using these devices is not always the easiest thing. I have one here that you have to take outside for 15 minutes, direct sunlight, fresh air, allow it to calibrate itself, and then you can bring it inside and it tries to read it. Still, it can be inaccurate. But like I said, it's just difficult to measure air because of its volatility and the consistent movement. So those readings are often underreported and overreported. I will say there are a couple of competitors out there that put these monitors on their units themselves. That comes into a little bit of a sticky situation because they put the indicators directly next to where the air is being pushed out. So of course it's clean air, that's what's coming out. But what they aren't measuring is what's on the other side of the room, which is what really matters. We're taking into consideration that entire room, not just the air that's being blown out. So, you can see what competitors do and, read up on it. Don't take our word for it. But there's a lot of ways out there to measure air. So understanding it can be very difficult. So then it takes you to another piece. I have something here, which is the ASHRAE. It's a set guidelines of a society of engineers, and they work for a system of eight HVAC systems. So they set standards in HVAC system, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. The whole point of this is so that they can give you recommendations to keep your indoor air clean. All kinds of ventilation rates, filtration rates, like for example, a HEPA 14 filter is a great idea for that. How you can control humidity because viruses last longer with high humidity. All these different standards, but they also depend on the occupancy of your facility. So a lot of people, a little amount of people, and it depends on what kind of activity is going on. Is it a gym? Is it a healthcare facility? Is it a hospital? You also, with this, get into things like air changes per hours. So like in an OR, there's a typical set standard of air changes per hours that need to be fulfilled. But that's different than a patient room, or if you work, in your local building down the street, is different. So these are all recommendations. They're not laws. They do not have to be followed, but they set strategic guidelines for you to have clean air within your facilities. So I encourage you to, go take a look at this ASHRAE standard. It's 62.1. You can find it online. This is the 2022 version. I didn't see a published 2024 version, but I'm sure they're working on it. Maybe there's a 2023 version. But I encourage you to go out and look for it. So the other thing I did want to talk about here. So this is the new White House petition. It's a pledge. So this was made I think this came out in 2022, and it's still active. If we remember in 2020, there was something called COVID, which you may or may not have heard of, but it heightened our senses about indoor air quality and drew a lot of attention around the pandemic and, wearing masks indoors, outdoors. There was a whole spiel about that. And so what the Biden administration did was they came up with a pledge for indoor air quality. And it's almost like a guideline on ways that you can implement them into your organization. There's, I want to say 60 organizations, maybe 65, that have signed this petition, saying that they stand for this and they believe in it. Two things that I want to take out of the document itself. You can look up whitehouse.gov, clean air. They talk about optimizing fresh air ventilation. So ventilation is bringing clean outdoor air inside and circulating it. That's great. If you can't do that, so let's say you're in an OR, you can't open a window, you can't open a door. How do you ventilate? Well, they talk about enhancing your air filtration and cleaning it. So to our point here is where we come into play, things like technology, our air system, the EIR, including HEPA filters. But there's all different ways that you can optimize clean air, indoor clean air. And we just encourage you to, look up information, use the resources that are out there. These are just a couple that I've found online. And that brings us to our solution, which is air, EIR. Air is the Norse goddess of nurturing and healing. And we like to show you how our silence speaks volumes. So I'll take you through just how the unit looks, how it runs, and then Brian, if you could demonstrate it a little bit. I know you have a camera over there. They'll actually be able to see the inside of an air unit running. So that's it. It's a freestanding, it's mobile, it's quiet, but most importantly, it's clean air. So what we do, our philosophy is a little different than some of the competitors out there. We take dirty air, we send it through a G2, G3 filters, which are particle filters. So they catch hair, skin, dust. They are then exposed to ultraviolet light. So this is the Air 1000 in the picture. Brian's is the 2000. We have 5 95-watt bulbs. It's the most UVC on the market. It's then zapped and it pops those pathogens like microwave popcorn, sends them through a fan up through a HEPA 14 medical grade filter, and is dispersed out through the top. I will say there's a unique part about the top and the design of that. So there are some competitors out there that blow direct air in one line of sight. Our philosophy is to disperse the air. So we have a couple of these in ORs around the country, and the reason that they like it is because there's not a direct sight or line of direction for air to go. They don't tend to like air anywhere being pushed towards the OR table itself. They'd rather it come down from the top and push it outwards. So that's the design of that. Brian, you can see one running as well as the fan in that picture there. But it's freestanding, it's mobile, and most of all, it's quiet. The things that I really want you to understand is we combine the most UVC with a HEPA 14 filter. So that's how we kill those pathogens and purify it. We do large volumes of cubic feet. The reason I say cubic feet, that's 70,000 cubic feet is volume. So we're not dealing with square footage. If you want to know what 70,000 cubic feet is, it is 70 by 100 by 10 sized room. So it's a very large room, and we purify 99.995% of that air every hour. So large volumes of air, and we do it at about 40 decibels. So if you compare 40 decibels, it's to a running fridge. So it's non-distractive, and people can continue to, work in peace. And those 3 things make up our air, and that's one of our big solutions in how we help keep indoor air quality at an utmost. So I guess I hit home with these pretty hard, but we have the best in class here. The one thing I do want to mention is down at the bottom here. It's a maintenance plan. So it's all inclusive. We like to say parts, labor, and travel. And let me explain that. So if a bulb breaks, filters need to be replaced every now and then. Everything is included by us. So we will send it to you and you can fix it yourself. If not, so every now and then, something more catastrophic happens, we will send a tech up. Everything is included, and we want you to have that ease of mind that system is running, and I do not have to worry about it. The good part is also on our installations with these maintenance plans is that our training is very extensive, so that when something does go wrong or breaks, these units are not hard to fix, and you will be able to do it yourself. The whole point of that is so that there's no downtime. If there was something wrong with our unit, you start looking to other ways to start purifying your air, or if you're using our Thor, how do I disinfect this room? We don't want that downtime. So we train your staff very extensively so that there is no downtime and they can keep our units running. But most of all, air is the most powerful, easy to use, silent UVC purification system on the market.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jess. So Jeff, Candace, and Lydia, welcome. I think you all are in Tampa Bay, aren't you? We have what we have here is in response to what's happened over the last 4 or 5 years. To Jess's point, indoor air quality has always been important, but what has happened since COVID is we all now are aware of it. When COVID hit, you remember all the draconian things we had to do, not only get vaccines, but wear masks. We had to get tested, and you guys in healthcare, you had your temperature checked to make sure that you weren't symptomatic. For me, when I flew up to do some installations in Philadelphia and New Jersey, they asked me if I was from Florida because the governors were at war philosophically on how to treat and care for COVID. So what ends up happening is people, during the last couple of years started not working from the office, right? They started working from home. And now people are starting to go back to the office, not to the extent that they were 5, 10 years ago, but by and large are going back inside. So the prevalence and the emergence of indoor air quality, I mean, it's always been there. It's always been super important, but it's even more important now. And the fact that the White House created a task force just to study this, they look at the quality of air and how is it that they can promote better public health. We in this healthcare industry are looking to bring something to avoid infections. So this device that we have here, this is a very simple device that uses the best filtration, best disinfection, the best circulation. And when you do circulation of air, it makes a lot of noise. So we don't want to disrupt the the workflow at the office. So in this, we had a customer yesterday. Where would I use this air unit? And the answer is anywhere you have an indoor congregation, anywhere you have people meeting indoors. The most obvious in a hospital is the emergency department, right? But think about how, I don't know if any of you have ever been inside a dialysis clinic, but that area also needs to be treated. But you can't just turn on ultraviolet light because there's patients there all the time. So there's got to be a way to treat the air and then, safeguard people easily with as little maintenance as humanly possible. In addition to all that, we have new smoke plume regulations, like the state of Florida, like last July, so when you use a Bovie electrosurgical pencil in a general surgery or whatever orthopedics, it creates a little plume of smoke. And all of you have been in the OR, even though you're wearing masks, you're smelling that char, right? So when you bring a patient in after that case, they're smelling the previous patient's char. So even though they have the Buffalo filter or the Neptune sucking the distal part of that the cautery pencil and the smoke is coming out, you still smell it. And that's someone else's aerosolized cells, okay? Could have viruses and everything else. And under universal precautions, you have to assume that everybody has everything, right? So that's the last thing anybody wants to do is breathe in somebody else's desiccated cells through their masks. And we've learned a lot about masks and filtration. So the point is, in orthopedics, there's a high sensitivity to infection. And in general surgery, there's so much red going on. There's so much plume. It's also staff safety. So infection and taking care of your staff is super important. So that's what we've done. We've created several different versions. We've got about 4 different sizes of this air unit. And I wanted to make sure that we got a chance to look at it. So in my screen here, I'll change my screen here in a second so you can see a little bit bigger. Can you see that? What we have is down here at the bottom, I'm using my hand here, these are G3 filters. So air comes in the sides on both sides of the unit. It sucks in air, and anything that comes into those filters is going to be killed, like instantly, within seconds. And there's nothing that's going to survive the trip from there up here through the fan. And anything that's left over is going to get captured by that filter up there. Okay, so everything, we're basically capturing skeletons or ash of the bugs. But this is the real money shot here. Having ultraviolet, what we're doing is treating the air. A lot of other folks, the philosophy is a little bit different. They want to put new elements and ions in the air. They want to spray it with peracetic acid or hydrogen peroxide or nuke it with some sort of other chemical that it probably has not been extensively tested, okay? What we're trying to do is remove pathogens from the air. Not only kill them, but then filter them. And our HEPA 14 filter up here, very easy to take out, captures everything down to a 0.1 micron, which is tiny. So any viruses that come in here are going to get captured up in the filter anyway, okay? So what you're getting, and this is the White House's recommendation, if you can't ventilate, right, then circulate, filter, disinfect, and also be wary of your workflow, which is the noise. Now you can't tell it. I've got this unit is on, but I don't know if you can hear it. And so it operates at 40 decibels, and the ambient air in a normal office space, you can't even tell the thing is on. So it's just a big box. It's sort of, you plug it in and set it and forget it. Okay. Any questions about our air unit? It's a very simple unit. And what I did here, this is our demo unit. We bring this to trade shows, but it has a glass door. Most of our units look like that. It's just a big black box. But the glass one here, the ultraviolet does not penetrate glass. but for our purposes today, we can see inside of it. Okay, you can see that the fan is moving pretty rapidly. And to Jess's point, about 70,000 cubic feet. Our Air 2000 is 2,000 cubic meters, which is equivalent to 70,500 cubic feet per hour. So if you have a room, forget the 70 by 10 by 10. If you had a room that's 10 by 10 by 10, you'd be changing that air several times an hour. And to Jess's point about ASHRAE, they have recommendations on how many times you change the air in all these different settings. And AORN recommends in the OR anywhere from 15 to 30 settings. I remember being in the Cleveland Clinic once, they wanted 40 air changes per hour. That's an ungodly amount of air changes. And what that does is it creates noise. Literally, I was called into this Cleveland Clinic years ago. This is before I was with this company, Finsen. They were complaining that the air changes were they wanted to say chill, keep the air moving, prevent infections, but the decibels were like 85 decibels, and the surgeons were complaining it was too loud. So that's what's cool about this air unit, is that not only does it treat the air and filter it, but it also is super quiet. Anyway, back to questions. I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera back to me, unless you guys want to see something more. Tristan, you want to add something?
Or Tristan, if you had anything to add.
No, I think you did a great job there, guys. And the only things I would add is that the key sort of messages with this product and the design philosophy of this system. So the first thing to note is that I don't like the word "or," and 99.9% of all the devices out there, they either kill or they capture. So they either use UVC or some other active medium, or they use filtration. I don't like the word "or." So this system is designed to do kill and capture. So we have UVC sandwiched between the G3 filters, which are the coarse intake filters, and the HEPA H14, which is the really almost molecular level filtration system. So we kill and capture, and that's a key differential with this system. The second point with them is that there is no replacement for displacement. And the real true performance measure of a system, aside from the filtration level, remember we do H14, is how much air it moves through that filter every hour. Not just what the fan's capable of, but what the air moves through that filter. And we're capable of, with our various systems, 350 cubic meters an hour with our small unit, which is designed for surgical plume, 1,000 cubic meters an hour, 1,350 cubic meters an hour, and 2,000 cubic meters an hour. Now, each one of those devices is tiered. So we vary the amount of UVC to compensate for the larger amount of airflow and the higher capacity of air moving through that system every hour. So it is based on science, calculation, and engineering. So no replacement for displacement. And also, every time you hear us talk about air disinfection, air handling, air filtration, however you want, whichever terminology you want to use, the key point is you'll hear us constantly talk about cubic volume. If you look around at the competition, if you look around at the Dysons of this world, for example, and the other systems that are out there in healthcare and out of healthcare, they all talk about, we can do 100 square foot room. What does that mean? I tell you this, it means absolutely nothing, because ceiling height can vary, from 7 foot to 16 foot, 18 foot to 20 foot, depending on your type of building. Every time you do that, you drastically change the volume, double it, triple it, quadruple it. And therefore, you need to never talk to a company about proper air disinfection, air handling, if they ever use square feet. They should only ever use cubic feet or cubic meters to discuss the requirements for air changes per hour. Other than that, this system is very straightforward, plug and play. We've got some great features. People always ask me, when do we need to change the filters? Well, we were very smart there and we innovated. I hate waste. We live in an age where we're trying to save as much as we possibly can, but I didn't want that to impact upon the performance of the device. So we actually monitor the delta pressure across the filter. You don't have to change the filter until we tell you on the system that it needs changing soon. And that's because we monitor the performance with the delta pressure. As the filter becomes more clogged, the delta pressure will go up. And that's how we're able to monitor that. And that eliminates unnecessary daily filter changes. You don't need that. And the way I always say that is because if you run this system in a hospital, the filters will not get clogged particularly quickly. If you run it in an industrial sawmill, they're going to get clogged a lot quicker. So, the system needs to automatically and autonomously adapt to that environment, which is what it does by monitoring the delta pressure across the filters. Final thing, if you do need to change the filters, I don't want to send an engineer out to change the filters, and Jess talked about this earlier on, but the filters are designed to be a completely toolless change. You simply unlock the back door like a gym locker, pull it open, and within 15 seconds the old filter's out and the new one's in. Very straightforward, very simple, really high performance, and with all the key metrics and key points that realistically, if you ever, we're very happy to bench test against any other manufacturer. We love going head to head. We always tend to walk out of those with our heads held very high, and normally purchase order as well. But we are not afraid to go head to head with any of our competitors because we are confident in the depth and performance of this machine. I'll stop talking now and hand back to Jess. Thank you for your time.
Really good. I'll wrap it up with a couple of caveats. And one of the things that you're going to find in this industry, there's a lot of confusion, and everyone is certain. All these competitors throw all sorts of snake oil, late night TV. Some of the things that are offered are so dangerous, it's terrible. But don't be confused. There's a lot of really good resources out there that Jess pointed out. But there's a lot of acronyms also. So when you hear the acronyms IAQ, that means indoor air quality. When you hear CFM, that means one thing. And then there's another way that you measure. CFM is cubic feet per minute. There's also cubic meters per hour. So when you compare one unit to the next, you really want to compare apples to apples. And then if I can emphasize one thing, you can't measure air quality with square footage. So if someone says that they're getting a certain filtration rate and they're mentioning square feet, to Tristan's point, we don't know if that ceiling height is 1 foot, 10 feet, or 20 feet. And you've been in big auditoriums. I'm trying to show you the auditorium I'm in. We measured it yesterday, and it's exactly 70,000 cubic feet. It's like 50 by 40 by 13 feet tall. That's a big room. So if we turn this air on, it's going to take 1 hour to change the air, this unit itself. So in smaller spaces, smaller ceilings, smaller dimensions, it'll turn the air changes more hours. So air changes per hour, ACH, is another really big measurement frequency. So it's your job to educate folks in the ORs on the need of this. But what's cool about Finsen is that this particular webinar, it's our first webinar, actually the last webinar of the year for air, first webinar in the last quarter on air. What's cool about air is that it's just one of our many products that we sell, and we're running promotions where we bundle the 2 or 3 products. And our competitors that are in this market, they only have one. They're like one-trick ponies. They have an air unit, or they have Thor, or they have something else. And with our company, we've got entries in all those categories. And we have different sizes. So they're all mobile. They all have wheels. You just plug them in and they work. But some are bigger than others. Like the Air 2000 I have here is pretty massive. It's several hundred pounds. I don't think, Jeff, you could lift that up, put it in the back of your car. But the Air 1000, we routinely put in the back of our SUV and drive it to accounts for demos. We do have some demos in Tampa. We have 3 or 4 of them. They're over in St. Pete right now. They're treating people's houses as a result of the hurricane. We're kind of doing some charity work out there by helping some of the folks that are stricken by Helene and all the flooding they had down there. So any other questions you guys have? We're here we've already gone past our half-hour mark, but I want to make sure that you leave here with information. There's the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, but you also have access to Jess and to me and to Tristan at any time. Should you need quotes or literature or just have a question that you don't want to ask today. All right. Well, you guys know how to get in touch with us. I really appreciate your getting on here. And should you need anything else, it's funny, Jess talked about service and the plans. Right before we started this webinar, University of Florida called me because they had a technical support issue. So I literally had to hand my phone to a tech support person. And that's the sort of responsiveness you get from us. And that's what the customers, unfortunately, that's what they expect of all of us. And with us, because we're local, we can handle it not only with the phone calls, but today's environment, you can use FaceTime and walk them through issues. We also have the ability to put consignment parts. So the service piece is a big one. Really, it's peace of mind. So with that, I'll let you go. I'll wrap it up. I wish you guys all a happy holidays. Thanks, Jess, for putting this all together. All right.
Thank you guys for hopping on.
Who's the biggest competitor? A company. Let me tell you who the biggest competitor is. And I actually have her business card. She's a nice little person. She came from Corin. So, you know, the knee company, I think they sell the hips and knees. She just started with Aerobiotics. And Aerobiotics has a little bit smaller unit than ours. They don't filter as much. I think they do 500 CFM. So the equivalent of ours is like 1200. They also have 4 tiny 27-watt bulbs. We have 5 95-watt bulbs, so we kill more. They also, to Jess's point, they push air unidirectionally. So what they tell their reps is make sure that fan is facing away from the OR table. They also only have one way that the air comes in, and they do a very clever thing. They have, Jess really pointed this out well, they have an air quality unit on the face of their unit. And what that does, it's kind of like measuring how dirty the bath water is by measuring the spigot when the water's coming in, you know. Of course that water's clean going into the bath water. What you want to know is how dirty it is. And so by having their air quality unit right there, it's given a false sense of security. But more importantly, it has I call it a doomsday clock. They have a clock that winds down from 24 hours. What does that mean? That means they make their customers change their filters every 24 hours. Ours can go weeks, if not months. And we know exactly if they're clean because to Tristan's point, we have pressure monitors in there. We can measure how clogged it is. So when you have a customer that has to pay $150 per filter per day, that adds up. So, and that's why from a sales management perspective, I see a lot of turnover in Aerobiotics because the reps they have one thing they sell. The customers hate having to change those filters. And more importantly, the rep has to drive 2 hours to go change the filter. And when you look at the commission rate on a $150 air change, it's like it doesn't make sense to them. Okay. So I hope I answered your question very, very quickly. You got a couple more chats down here. Wow, thank you. So Aerobiotics, and hey, we really recommend you look at Aerobiotics website. It's AERO, Biotics with an X, I believe. They've got really good content, really, really good content. And there's no reason to try to, they've been around probably for 12 years, and it was founded by a neurosurgeon. So he's got orthopedics on the brain. They don't go after clinics. They don't go after, I don't even see them going after surgery centers, but they should. But they only have one size of unit. Okay. So, but they have done a very nice job with education, and they have some videos that I think if you check out YouTube and Vimeo and look at Aerobiotics, it'll help you understand what we're trying to do. And so we can go side by side and we'll destroy them because we have just every design, power, accuracy that we have is better. And then of course our program is better, our pricings are better, and our reps are the best looking people in America. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Thank you, Tristan.
Thanks, everybody. And well done, Jess. Great job.
Yeah. See you later, Tris. We're going to run webinars. We try to run webinars once a month. What I try to do is have a webinar every 2 weeks that's internal so that our reps can ask questions like sort of offline. And it's more of a training program. But we also have external webinars. And what we'll do is we'll pick one of our products and then do a webinar. So we've done most of our webinars are on Thor because that's where most of the dollars are in this market. And there's a lot of confusion because there's like 15 competitors in this market. But generally speaking, you can expect once a month for an external, once a month internal, and we alternate them like by 2 weeks. So that makes sense. We are always available for an ad hoc. If you have a customer that wants a webinar, or if you just want to get on the phone and talk to us, I'm just walking around with my laptop right now, but we do have cameras. Jeff's been to this Catholic school. That's where our temporary digs are while we're negotiating an office. But it works really well. It's very symbiotic. We get to treat a big space and a filthy kitchen, which is over there. This place has never smelled so good, really. So